held on the 3rd of September 2025. I'll just check if we've got Councillor Allison. I understand he had some technical issues. He's not with us as yet. Councillor Anderson, I understand, was the same, but I see he's actually in the meeting. We have Councillor Barker, we have Councillor Chalmers, we have Councillor Clark. I'll just check if we've got Councillor Cooper. We don't have Councillor Cooper. We have Councillor Dewar, Councillor Equi. We have apologies from Councillor Fagan. We have Councillor Gowland. We obviously don't have Councillor Hamilton. I'll check if we've got Councillor Keat. We don't seem to have Councillor Keat. We have Councillor Lambie, Councillor Lockhart, Councillor Loudon, Councillor Marsh, Councillor Leslie MacDonald, Councillor McDougall. We have apologies from Councillor Nugent and understand that Councillor Frame is in the meeting as a substitute. We have Councillor Ray, we have Councillor Razak, Councillor Robb. I'll just check if we've got Councillor Ross. Yes, we do. We have Councillor Scott, Councillor Thompson, Councillor Toner. I have apologies from Councillor Walker. I'll check if we've got Councillor Williams. We don't seem to have Councillor Williams, unless there's any other substitute members attending. I'll hand back to you, Chair, for today's business.
Thank you very much. Okay, the first item is declaration of interests. Do we have any declarations of interest? Not seeing any. Okay, we'll move on to item number 2, the minutes of the previous meeting. Those are on pages 5 to 10 of the pack. I will move that those are a correct record. Does it,
Sorry, happy to second them.
Anybody, is it, are we all agreed on that? Thank you. Moving on now to item 3. This is the Scottish Government consultation on draft statutory guidance for public bodies under the Climate Change Scotland Act 2009, and I'll invite Gemma Dodds to speak to this report.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of this report is to provide committee with an overview of the Scottish Government's proposed new draft statutory guidance under the Climate Change Scotland Act 2009, and to provide committee with a summary of South Lanarkshire Council's response to the consultation submitted to Scottish Government on the 23rd of May. Section 3 of the report provides statutory context to this consultation, highlighting that the Council has a duty to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, contribute to the delivery of the Scottish National Adaptation Plan, and act in the most sustainable way under the Climate Change Scotland Act 2009. Under this Act, Scottish ministers are required to provide public bodies with guidance and support to fulfil these duties. The current statutory guidance was originally published in 2011 and now requires to be updated. The full draft statutory guidance executive summary is included at Appendix 1, but Section 3 of the report provides an overview of the draft guidance. Some notable guidance covered in Section 4 includes the need for strong climate change leadership within public bodies, formally committing to climate action, embedding climate considerations into governance structures, and ensuring that climate change influences strategic plans, investment and risk management. Under the first duty, public bodies must contribute to national emissions targets, including the 2045 net zero goal. This involves setting local targets, developing climate strategies, and managing carbon emissions across operations. The second duty, climate adaptation, is about helping to deliver the Scottish National Adaptation Plan. The guidance highlights best practice in understanding climate risks, using scenario analysis, and integrating adaptation into financial and strategic planning. The third duty requires public bodies to act in the most sustainable way. Public bodies are encouraged to take action, take account of environmental limits, well-being, and sustainable economic principles in decision-making, including sustainable procurement and impact assessments. The guidance also reinforces the importance of annual reporting. The draft guidance sets a higher ambition regarding reporting, in particular around Scope 3 emissions. This includes emissions from water, waste, business travel, commuting and home working. Section 5 summarises South Lanarkshire Council's response to the consultation submitted on the 23rd of May this year. The full response submitted can be found at Appendix 2. However, I draw your attention to a few of the points raised, including that the guidance could be clearer on how public bodies can fulfil the requirement to best calculate the climate impact of their actions. Local authorities require further guidance and support how to fund major decarbonisation projects, and more coordination and central government support is also required to tackle area-wide emissions. Overall, the guidance is too complex and lengthy to be meaningfully engaged with officers across the Council, and the Council welcomes the proposed climate change plan template as it covers 3 duties, recognises organisational and area-wide targets, and offers a standardised approach to reporting across Scottish public bodies. Next steps are outlined at Section 6, which states that once the full statutory guidance is made available, this will be presented to the Council's Climate Change and Sustainability Committee. Sections 7 through to 10 outline all the standard implications to the Council. It is noted at Section 9 that complying with and implementing the recommendations within the proposed guidance will pose significant financial implications for the Council. The Council's consultation response states that any additional burdens placed on the Council services will require to be fully funded by the Scottish Government. At Section 9, it's made clear that the climate change, sustainability and environmental implications of the proposed guidance will be significant. Failure to implement the guidance will have significant negative impacts and represents a top risk to the Council. The guidance highlights the best practice requirement for public bodies to implement a sustainable impact assessment process. Section 11 of the report states that in line with the proposed guidance, the Council's existing impact assessment process should be applied across all Council projects. I refer you back to Section 2 of the paper and ask that the committee approve the following recommendations: that the overview of the proposed new statutory guidance for public bodies be noted, and that the summary of South Lanarkshire Council's response to the consultation also be noted. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Are there questions and comments? I see we have Councillor Bert Thompson.
Thank you very much, Chair. I welcome that report. The delivery was fantastic, very precise. I noted you're saying there about we're willing to support it, but we need the finances. How important is it? First of all, we need the money for Scottish Government, other agencies to support it. And the second thing, a bit of indulgence, I was recently in Denmark and they're building a new town. And the first thing they've done before a digger, a bit of machinery is put in the ground is the trees, the fauna, the wildlife, everything was looked at first. Nothing moves forward without the protection of the environment, which is associated with this committee. So it was quite encouraging. And putting a big river down the middle of it, that because to support wildlife and to support the people as well, mental health, etc. and that. So we can learn a lot for other people. But just to get back to the report there, have we definitely got to get funding, or can we guarantee funding to support it? Because it looks great measures, but again, like everything in life, we need funding. Thanks, Chair.
David.
Thank you. Oh, listen, thank you very much, Chair. Thank you very much, Councillor Thompson. I suppose that's a very pertinent question, isn't it? In terms of the challenges that we face as we move forward around about climate change, the Council's budget is not going to be sufficient as it stands at the moment. It's not going to be anywhere near sufficient in terms of meeting that challenge. And we, through the Council, through COSLA, through Solace, and through various engagements we have with the Scottish and UK governments, we're highlighting at every stage that in order to take forward the ambitions that we have as a nation, then there needs to be finances to match that, and that burden can't be carried by local authorities. So we're keeping that conversation alive. Thank you.
Okay, the next question, Councillor Julia Mars.
Chair, thank you for the report, and I would say that I prefer that these things are brought to committee ahead of the consultation going in, and I do wonder whether it could have been brought earlier to this committee and members be able to offer their views ahead of submission. But maybe some detail on that could be offered. But moving on to my question, noting paragraphs 410 and 416, which notes that the council should act in the most sustainable way, and that they should consider a number of scope 3 emissions, including commuting and home working, and also noting the council's submission at 5.1, which asks that the way that councils best calculate the climate impact of their actions should be clearer and not left to councils to determine themselves. I am paraphrasing to use fewer words here in the interest of time. It would be helpful if it could be clarified whether commuting would also include school children and school transport, given the lack of choice of location and time of attendance school children have, and the significant carbon tonnage around policy changes made there.
Alison Brown.
Thank you, Councillor Mars. Just taking your first point around timing. Unfortunately, like many consultation responses, they don't fall within the committee cycle, and I'm afraid that is not just for this particular committee, but for other committees as well. And whilst we endeavour to try and get them to committee ahead of submissions, sometimes that just isn't possible. So I'm afraid that's one of these scenarios where that is the case. In terms of commuting and the points you picked up there, I wonder if Gemma or Adam can come in on that particular point.
Thank you for the question, Councillor. On the Scope 3 emissions that you mention at, I think it was 4.10, or the Scope 3 emissions that you mentioned, this will be the first year that we do report our Scope 3 emissions as per the draft guidance. It's not required yet, but we are kind of going before the requirement and implementing that best practice this year. So this will be the first year that we are reporting on those 5 Scope 3 emissions that are noted within the report there. In terms of the emissions associated with school transport, that wouldn't be considered commuting, so we won't be reporting on that within this year's annual public bodies reporting submission to the Scottish Government.
Councillor Mars, have you any further comments on that?
Yes, if possible. I understand the timing issues over the consultation and the committee cycle. I wonder whether comments made after the fact can be offered. I know that that's happened previously where timing has been an issue in other committees. I wonder whether comments made here could be added to that consultation response, even though late. And thank you for the detail on the school transport. I do think that the carbon tonnage that policy changes made by the administration that have happened in the past year should be looked at and should be known and understood. So whether it's part of this consultation or not, I would definitely think this committee should have cognizance of the impact of that.
David?
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you very much, Councillor Mars. In terms of going back with further comments out with the timescales of the consultation, we'd be happy to do that. We can try and put those comments, whether they're taken on board or not, given that the timescales I'm not sure. But in terms of the actual the proposals which we will be gathering information on, it will be based on the guidance that we've got this time round from the government. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, well, we've got quite a few questions here. So next is Councillor John Anderson.
Thanks, Chair. Just on this timing again, we were told there that the council will respond, I think it was the 22nd or 23rd of May. We had a meeting on the 3rd of June. What was the deadline for submitting the response? And I know that in the past the council has asked for an extension to the deadline, given that we have a committee that should be dealing with these things a few days maybe after the deadline is up. So what was the date that the submissions had to be in for? And did we ask for an extension, or why didn't we ask for an extension? Thanks.
David?
Thanks very much, Chair. Thanks very much, Councillor Anderson. The date of the submission was the 23rd of May. We didn't ask for an extension. We felt that the response that we had put together was a fair response and reflected the Council's position on it. We simply didn't ask for an extension in terms of to meet in with the committee cycle on this occasion. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Anderson, did you have a
Yeah,
supplementary?
I know the submission was the 23rd. When was the deadline? Or did we just wait to the very last day before we submitted our response?
David?
Sorry, I will need to check what the date, Councillor Anderson. We can find out what the actual date of the deadline was and come back to you. So I don't know that as I'm sitting here at the moment. Thank you.
I'm just disappointed that we never asked for a deadline when it's so close, because this comes up time and time again, not just at this meeting, but particularly this meeting. Well, it's all agreed, it's all done, and then we're just asked. Well, we're not asked. We're just being told this is it. Take it or leave it. But thanks anyway, Chair.
Okay, next question is from Councillor Graham Scott.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, can I thank officers for the report? It's an excellent report, and given the quality of the debate so far, I think it's envisaged that a lot of talk has come from this, and I'd like to make a few points and reinforce what my colleague Councillor Thompson said about affordability. If I can appoint members to page 15, 8.1, and I'll read the last sentence. It is estimated that the transitioning of non-domestic council properties to zero-emission heating systems alone could be up to £900 million. Again, it's down to the affordability points that was made by Councillor Thompson, is that over how many years is this? Given that amount of money, it's the affordability to local government. Is it a burden that local government cannot take alone? We will certainly need government help to do that, whether it be central government at Westminster or the Scottish Government. And of course, more importantly, in a cost of living crisis, is the affordability for brand new heating systems to our electorate. That is key in itself, that there's no point in asking people to transition to a new heating system when they can't afford it, or in the case of some of the new heating systems, we don't have the production in this country. We'd have to import all the machines and the heating systems that would have to go into people's houses. It's a myriad of complex questions, and certainly it's a time scale. £900 million. We in local government can't take this burden alone, and it's a burden that we'll put on our residents and our electorate. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Does anybody wish to? Okay. Last question is from Councillor Kirsten Robb.
Okay, thank you. Thanks very much for the report. I have a question just to respond to a couple of the points as well. I would completely agree with you about funding. It is a massive thing, but it's a necessary thing. But hopefully later in the report, we're looking at retrofit and the LHES strategy, so maybe we can pick that up there with financial mechanisms to help as well. But funding is also about doing things differently with the funding we do have, and hopefully the climate change strategy can lead that as we move on as well. So we do have some levers, and we can use them as much as possible. On Denmark, absolutely. I think I've been to Ballerup as well. The reasons why they're doing things differently is because they realise when they put in good quality developments that have nature at their heart, then it also benefits the residents and the people too. So yeah, that's good, and we'll be talking about that a wee bit later with the LDP stuff as well, to the nature strategy. Just picking up John Anderson's point, I think he does have a fair point about what is the normal process to notify members, and maybe we can look at that in advance before we put... I know in some other committees we have draft consultation responses sent round members for comment before the deadline, so maybe if we could look at that going forward, that would be good to make sure that it's a, you know, we get response from the wider membership as well. And finally, to my question, it picks up the point quite rightly that the officers have picked up. What does best calculated mean? So we have a duty to contribute to national emissions reductions targets in a way we best calculate. That does lead to ambiguity. We've certainly had some individual decisions that contradict this and increase emissions, even though the impact assessment that we've highlighted says that will increase emissions, but some elected members have decided to make that decision anyway. So it does lead to ambiguity. We need to move in the same direction about emissions reductions in everything that we do. So I welcome that clarification. You don't need to answer that. It's just a point that I agree that needs much clarification nationally and locally here in the Council about moving in the same direction towards emissions reductions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I think there are no more questions. So I will, I think we have to note that report. So are we all agreed to note that report? Yeah. Good. On to item number 4 on the agenda. So this is the Scottish Government consultation on draft Just Transition Plan for Transport, and that is on pages 37 to 50. Can I ask Adam Wallace to speak to this report, please? Thanks.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of this report is to provide an overview of the Scottish Government's draft Just Transition Plan for Transport and provide a summary of the response to the consultation which was submitted by the Council to the Scottish Government on the 19th of May 2025. Section 3 provides the background to the report, including definition of just transition, information on the Just Transition Commission, on the Just Transition Commission, and the purpose of the Just Transition plans. The Just Transition Plan for Transport is not intended to set out new standalone policies. Instead, it is designed to make the connections between existing and developing policy and serve as a guide for people and organisations across Scotland to understand what a just transition means for transport. The draft plan focuses on the transport subsectors, which are most pressing areas for significant decarbonisation action in the near term, predominantly road sectors. This includes cars and vans and heavy-duty vehicles, and including heavy goods vehicles and buses. The draft transition plan for transport is centred around the vision and outcomes set out at section 4.2. The draft plan considers the key challenges and opportunities in achieving the vision across 3 groupings, which are people and communities, workers and businesses and organisations. For each of these groups, the draft plan sets out and sought views on what a successful just transition for 2045 will mean, the current context, action to date and potential future priorities. Section 5 provides a summary of the consultation response from South Lanarkshire Council. The full response can be found in Appendix 1. Some key points are noted at 5.1, including improved demonstration of the plan's linkages with the National Transport Strategy. A National Transport Strategy delivery plan outcomes and actions would be beneficial. Clarity on targets would be welcomed throughout the plan. Reference to any expectations placed on local authorities should be clearly identifiable within the plan, alongside reference to additional resources for local authorities should they be expected to deliver on any new expectations. The Council suggests that any cost increases need to be carefully thought out and balanced in relation to the people and equity outcome, ensuring that transport options are affordable and the transition to decarbonised transport does not disproportionately burden those with the least choice and ability to pay. Decarbonisation of transport is a priority for local authorities. However, this represents a significant financial challenge for already stretched authorities. Alongside targets and actions noted within the plan, a financial plan for enabling authorities to deliver decarbonised transport would be welcomed. And finally, infrastructure required to facilitate a green transition needs further consideration, including extension of active travel networks and EV charging infrastructure. Additionally, support for businesses and individuals to access and utilise this is required. In terms of next steps, there's no timescale being provided yet for the publication of the final version of the Just Transition Plan for Transport in Scotland. When that final version is published, the Council will consider its recommendations and ensure alignment with the Council's own plans and policies going forward. Implications to the Council are noted in sections 7 through 11. Importantly, noted against the climate change, sustainability and environmental implications, and delivering against the outcomes detailed within the plan, the Council has the potential to make significant progress in delivering positive change in terms of addressing climate change and its impacts, alongside sustainability and environmental considerations. In particular, implementation of the actions noted within the plan will make a considerable contribution towards the Council's net zero ambitions, biodiversity and air quality targets, and ensure that transport infrastructure is more resilient to the impacts of more frequent and extreme adverse weather events. To refer back to the recommendations at section 2, the committee is asked to approve the recommendations that the overview of the contents of the Just Transition Plan for Transport be noted, and that the summary of the Council's response to the consultation also be noted. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions or comments on that? Councillor Bert Thompson, please.
Thanks very much, Sharon. Thanks again to the officer of that report. We appreciate all the hard work that goes into it. I'm a member of an organisation, the Blantyre Volunteer Group, and we are actively seeking a new electric vehicle to move with the times, costs, environment, and we want to do that, and we want to participate and be involved and move. The thing that's stopping us is this word again, costs. And I was looking, to get this vehicle would cost us about 60,000 to 70,000 more than a diesel vehicle. So I think Scottish Government, Westminster Government and anybody else that can influence MD should be encouraging people for grants, more loans, interest-free loans to encourage us to do that. So nobody else, just us looking for it, but other people as well. And I just thought your views on that. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Any comments? Colin Park.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks, Councillor Thompson, for your question. I think we, the Council, are wrestling with that same problem as we try and transition our fleet, and you'll see reference in Adam's reply there to that consultation. There are grants beginning to become available. Again, more than happy to have a conversation with you offline as well, if nothing else, maybe to put yourself and the group in touch with maybe some of our suppliers. Again, they are more costly, they are coming down, whether it's a large, heavy vehicle. I think the technology for kind of HGVs and above is, as far as I'm concerned, not yet proven. Lots of good ideas out there, but as soon as you get in one of them in the middle of winter and the heating's going as well, and you're doing a long journey with your lights on as well, they do take a little bit longer the charge runs out quicker. So I'm happy to have that chat with you, but I would agree there's a need to kind of make them affordable. And I think it's coming, but maybe not at the pace that people would like. Thanks.
Thank you. Now, Councillor Julia Mars, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'm noting the Council response at 5.1, which says to increase the focus on ensuring affordable transport options are available for those who reside in areas of multiple deprivation and or rural communities that are adversely impacted when public transport is reduced or removed. I would wholeheartedly agree with this. It is very important for the rural area and for those without options to have access to good transport, good public transport. But I realise the irony of this statement for young people now without their school transport and the impact on them and indirectly on public bus services which serve those areas. Whilst I know that school transport will not be deemed public transport for the purposes of this consultation response, I would ask that it's included in considerations going forward, because it can't reasonably be considered private transport either, and the actions taken by the Council in this area directly impact commercial bus services and their ability to meet transport needs.
Okay. Colin Park again.
Thanks, Chair. I'm not sure, Councillor Mars, there's much I can add to that. I can understand the kind of continuing comments about school transport. I know colleagues in education are continuing to look at that and continuing to understand what the impacts of the changes have been. Impacts on public transport, I think, remain to be confirmed if there are indeed impacts. You know, you could argue that some of the the children now using the buses could assist them services to become more sustainable moving forward. But, you know, this was only introduced a few weeks ago. I know, speaking to colleagues in education, we're continuing to have that conversation as officers, but also with the bus companies and with SBT as well. So I'm sure any impacts will be quantified and any mitigation taken should that be needed in the coming weeks and months. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Maas, do you have any further comments on that? Okay. Councillor Kirsten-Robb, please.
Thank you, and thanks, Adam, for the report. Obviously, transport is the thing that people rely on for their daily lives and getting about, whether it's leisure, work, appointments and so on. So with limited finances, we need to make sure we get the biggest bang for our buck in terms of for our public purse on climate, health and poverty and so on, to make sure transport delivers on these things. I wanted to ask how the new upcoming local transport strategy will reflect just transition principles, and how future transport budget priorities will also reflect just transition, to make sure we get maximum bang for the public buck.
Colin Park, please.
I'm on a roll today, aren't I? Thanks, Chair, and Councillor Robb, for your question as well. So we actually had a debate yesterday about the local transport strategy next steps. So there's a consultation, continuing consultation. Hopefully the final one will take place over October and November. And again, no doubt you'll have seen versions of the LTS today. There's a whole range of policies in there and actions that will allow us to hit the climate change challenge head on. You know, transport is such a cross-cutting theme across every element of council life, whether it be education, economy, leisure, whatever. So I'm pretty sure there's every basis covered in there, and the kind of beauty of a local transport strategy is it's going to set out a vision for 10 years. It's detailed, but not too detailed. It doesn't give us options to scale up or scale down in a particular area, and it allows us to use that strategy document, which hopefully will be endorsed by members by the end of the calendar year, to secure additional funding from whatever funding stream we can get that from. So more than happy to have that conversation once you see the detail coming out. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you.
Supplementary.
Yeah.
And just to be assured that just transition principles will be in there. And sorry, I haven't seen any drafts of the LTP. Is it out already? Have I missed something?
No, it's not out yet.
All
in
right,
terms
okay.
of there would have been an earlier consultation, some of the challenges and problems coming through, so the actual document isn't out yet. And certainly just transition principles, SEAs have been done on the document as well. So as I say, this is the final opportunity to shape it, adjust it, tweak it, add to it, whatever. So that's coming forward.
Okay, thank you.
More than happy to have that chat. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't see any more questions, so can we agree to note that report? Sorry. Councillor John Ross.
Very much, Chair. My question is prompted by Colin's last remark there. As far as SPT is concerned and their plans to franchise transport throughout Strathclyde, is Colin looking to make sure that rural transport and its effects are taken into consideration as we move forward with this franchise setup? Thank you very much.
Colin Park.
Thanks, Chair, and Councillor Ross for your question as well. You maybe recollect, Councillor Ross, at the last Community and Enterprise Resource Committee, there was a paper on both the Metro put forward and also SBT's regional bus strategy consultation as well. And within that, we did stress the point that there wasn't these exact words, but not all roads are leading to Glasgow, and we need to recognise the rural dimension in South Lanarkshire and across some of the other shires across the kind of city region as well. So we are very much pushing that point that one size doesn't fit all, and the rural dimension is a key part for us to consider. Less so in the Metro, because I think the Metro probably won't come out as far as the kind of rural area as we would expect, but bus services, working with communities to make sure their needs are identified and built into SBT's plan has been key, and we'll continue to push that at every opportunity. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Any further comments, Councillor Ross?
No, I'm fine with that,
Thank
thanks.
you. Right. I think this time there's no further questions. So can we note that report, please? Thank you. Okay. Item number 5 is the full-term report on the implementation of the Climate Emergency Fund Part 2 funded projects 2021 to 2025, and that is on pages 51 to 100 in the pack. Can I invite Catherine McCafferty to speak to the report, please?
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of this report is to update the committee on the individual projects funded by South Lanarkshire Council's Climate Emergency Fund. This report follows a report to the Climate Change and Sustainability Committee on the 4th of June 2025, which outlined the overall position in respect to the full implementation of the Council's Climate Emergency Fund 2021 to 2025. The June report provided background to the Climate Emergency Fund, that it was funded via the 2021 to 22 revenue budget, and that the £2 million allocation was committed for a 4-year period. The June report also provided an overview of the spend profile. Today's report provides more information on the individual projects funded by the Climate Emergency Fund, including the individual outputs, outcomes and benefits of the projects. Section 4 of the report covers the internal council projects that were funded. A total of 28 projects were approved for funding through the Sustainable Development and Climate Change Steering Group. This included 13 feasibility studies, 6 active travel projects, 4 biodiversity and nature restoration projects, 3 education and training projects, 3 air quality supporting projects, and 2 recycling and waste reduction projects. A full list of the internal projects is included in Appendix 1, with case studies on those projects provided in Appendix 2. Section 5 of the report covers the Climate Emergency Community Grants Scheme. In total, 118 grants have been awarded. This includes 19 community groups and partner organisations which received funding. 30 school and garden nursery projects have been developed. 18 community growing projects have been supported. 15 cycling and cycle maintenance projects have been developed. 9 groups have installed solar PV panels, and 5 groups have supported recycling or circular economy projects. A full list of the community grants is provided in Appendix 3, with case studies and some key projects provided in Appendix 4. All of the standard implications are noted in Sections 6 to 10 of the report, including that the Climate Emergency Fund has helped the Council contribute to national climate targets and has had an impact on climate action throughout the Council and for the wider South Lanarkshire community. So if I can return you to the recommendation of the report, and that is to update the committee on the individual projects funded by South Lanarkshire Council's Climate Emergency Fund. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments? I see Councillor John Ross.
Yes, thanks very much, Chair. I would really like to welcome this report. Thank the officers very much for the input here. When you read through the report, it's really valuable that we actually put away this emergency climate fund when we did, because the things that we've managed to do with this £2 million is really, really impressive. When you take the items that have just been announced, especially myself as a cyclist and a keen cyclist, to see exactly the grants and the things that have been done, and the Love to Ride initiative as well. I think when we look at how communities are benefiting from this emergency climate fund, I think it's really impressive, this report, and I would like to thank the officers for all the hard work that they've put in. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Next, Councillor Bert Thompson, please.
Thanks very much, Chair. Again, I welcome the report. I think everyone here appreciate all the time and effort you put in. It's the groups involved, it's encouraging. But I've found that being a councillor, a lot of the time it's the same groups, the same people and lots of things. How, in particular, can we get young people more involved, are a bit of diversity there, and it encourages people to take part. what we doing to publicise things? How's our publicity? How's that working, Chair?
Thank you. David Booth, please.
Thanks very much, Chair. Thanks very much, Councillor Thompson. We do a lot of work in this space in terms of through the schools, and all through education, as we're trying to, young people, as you point out, do have a real interest in terms of climate change. So as we do that work through the various forums that we have in place through the schools, we're always trying to highlight any opportunities we've got around about taking forward initiatives that might be of value to them, and trying to kind of support that through various funding initiatives that we have and that come up in the future. So we do think there is a vibe, but your point's well made, is that those younger people are the people that are going to take this forward as we go into the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kirsten Robb, please.
Just a quick comment. Thank you everyone for the work on this and for putting the money in place in the first place. Just to highlight, there's a whole range of different organisations that have benefited, including help for the council to do all those important studies that you need to bring in more match funding further down the line. So I think it's great to see the range. It's great to see all the co-benefits that climate action brings to people's health and well-being, and reducing poverty, as well as creating jobs in the green economy. So all good stuff. Thank you.
Okay, don't see any more questions, so can we note that report, please? Thank you. And the next item is number 6, which is the Climate Emergency Fund 2025-2026, and that is on pages 101 to 106. Can I ask Adam Wallace to speak this to the report, please?
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of this report is to provide committee with an update on the recently announced Scottish Government-funded Climate Emergency Fund 25-26, and provide committee with an update on the progress of the projects approved by the Executive Committee in May 2025. Section 3 provides background to the report. The 2025-26 Scottish Government budget on the 4th of December 2024 announced an allocation of £40 million nationally for climate emergency funding. This is fully funded from one-off ScotWind funding. The Council's share of this funding is £2.198 million. Details of the Climate Fund were presented to full Council on the 26th of February 2025 as part of the 25-26 Capital Programme Update, and the project list and spend profile was approved at Executive Committee on the 28th of May 2025. In March 2025, the Council was advised that the purpose of this funding is to scale up existing projects such as renewable energy, public transport and active travel networks. Other suggestions with a clear benefit in terms of addressing the climate emergency were also considered. The table at section 4.2 details the list of approved projects. These include Clyde walkway repairs to 2 sets of stairs and 2 paths, Nature Restoration Fund top-up to deliver preparatory studies in local nature reserves, country park upgrades, 1 path each in Calderglen and Chatlerow, low-carbon road resurfacing trials at 3 sites, replacement of halogen traffic signals with LED alternatives, new EV charging installation at key South Lanarkshire Council sites, a composting pilot, which a note in the report says 360, but since the paper was written, we've now taken delivery of 680 compostings. The first phase of those have been given out, and we're looking to do phase 2 very soon. And also just on that item, the approximate spend is now sitting at around 10,000, not 5,000 since the time of writing. Further projects include a reusable dishware pilot. This has seen all goods for the project have been purchased, and this project has achieved full spend already. We've also had sports floodlighting upgrades to LED at 3 sports facilities at Bent Pavilion, Ballarat Pavilion and Jock Stein Centre. PV installation at South Lanarkshire Lifestyles Carluke. Smart storage heating controls in flats which have storage heating systems. A number of heat network and heat pump feasibility studies. Costs to carry out feasibility study and options analysis for low carbon upgrades at Keir Campus, and finally a school uniform recycling pilot to develop an online system or app to allow families to access free reused school uniforms. The approved spend profile for the Climate Emergency Fund 25-26 allocation is equal to the allocated amount of £2.198 million. The budget will be managed throughout the year to ensure that the fund achieves full spend and that there's no overspend. In terms of progress to date, the table at 4.2 provides details on the progress made against spend for each of the 14 projects. In summary, 2 of the projects have had achieved spend by July 2025. Composting pilot, as I mentioned, and the school dishware pilot, whereby facilities are engaging with education to lay the groundwork for the rollout of these in St John Ogilvie and Lesmahago High Schools. The total spend is now equal to around 0.25 million, so slightly higher than the time of writing of the report. The remaining projects have all made progress in terms of delivery, and there are no issues currently identified in the Council's ability to achieve full spend by year-end 25-26. Progress so far on the other projects has focused on developing project specifications, given the technical nature of many of the projects, and on engagement with the Council's procurement services to develop tender documentation and appropriate routes to market for the various pieces of work. Implications to the Council are noted between sections 6 to 10, and in terms of the climate change, sustainability and environmental implications specifically, the proposed projects will make a significant contribution towards delivering the priorities identified within the Council's Sustainable Development and Climate Change Strategy. Further, the projects will also align with the Council's commitment to the 3 duties of the Climate Change Scotland Act 2009 to contribute to national emissions reduction targets, help deliver the National Adaptation Programme and to act sustainably. So to refer back to the recommendations at section 2, the Climate Change and Sustainability Committee is asked to approve the recommendation that the contents of the report with regard to the delivery of the Climate Emergency Fund 25-26 allocation are noted. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Are there any questions or comments? I see Councillor Ross Clark.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you very much to Adam for the report. First of all, to welcome this funding via the Scottish Government, building on that wider investment in climate change via the Scottish Government, but also building on the previous work by the Council, such as what we've spoken about in the last paper, as alluded to by Councillor Ross and others. So first of all, to welcome that. It's certainly good to see, and we should always be looking to push for further investment and so on. A couple specific questions. So on page 103, first of all, the composting pilot, which was just touched upon. So just to confirm that we're planning to expand on that and intend to spend the remaining money is following on from the pilot. And secondly, on the next page, the school uniform recycling pilot, I know it says there awaiting outcome from this inquiry. Is there any update on that? Thank you.
Kevin Carr, please.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Councillor Clark, for the question. Just in terms of the composting pilot, yes, the intention will be, if there continues to be a demand, we'll utilise that full allocation. We're kind of taking it step by step in terms of phasing it, just to make sure there is a demand, so there will still be some funds available. If the take-up for this continues in the same as phase 1, and again, we'll have the final phase of it if they're all taken up.
Okay. And Adam Wallace for the second point. David Hinshaw, please.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Councillor Clark. Yes, we have been in contact with the Parent Pay, who administer, obviously, payments within schools, non-cashless payments, and they are able to make the school uniform available on a catalogue basis there. They can't do it for £0, but they can do it for a penny, which we will cover because that will be a minimum cost to us ourselves in education to make this work. We met with the Youth Forum last week, and they're keen to concentrate on the secondary schools in the first instance in this pilot. They reckon the primary schools are working pretty well on a sort of ad hoc basis, and the rails they have in and around schools for parents to access reusable uniforms. So we will be concentrating on the secondary schools, and Youth Forum are fully on board with that. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Bert Thompson, please.
Yeah, right. Thanks very much, Chair. I'll just make it brief. I think it's important at this stage for me personally to a shout out for volunteers in my area in particular, but all of South Lanarkshire. is less and less, and money is more restraint, more restraint. We've got a group, Bonnie Blantyre, and if you go through Blantyre any time, you'll see all the planters are now taking care of, once the council done. Probably the same with hanging baskets, etc., and litter picking. So these groups out here, I think it's important that everyone is in here recognise them and support them as much as we can. So just a big thanks, and Chair, thanks for your indulgence.
Thank you. I don't see any more questions. So can we note that report, please? Thank you. Moving on now to item 7, the Nature Emergency Declaration. That is on pages 107 to 126. Can I please invite Joe Gillis to speak to the report?
Thank you, Chair. South Lanarkshire Council declared a nature emergency in January 2024, and this paper responds to the issues raised and highlights specific progress to tackle the nature emergency. The Nature Emergency Declaration report highlights the body of evidence which outlines the extent of the global nature and biodiversity crisis driven by the following 5 key factors: direct exploitation, development, pollution, climate change, and invasive non-native species. The report highlights information from the latest State of the Nature report, which provides compelling evidence that Scotland's wildlife continues to decline. The report reveals that 1 in 9 species are threatened with national extinction, with a 15% decline in average species abundance across closely monitored wildlife since 1994. Sharp declines are not just in our rare and endangered species, but also in familiar species such as greenfinch, house sparrow, house martin and starling. We must also remember that nature provides us with all the ecosystem services we need to survive, including the clean air that we breathe, water, food, shelter and medicine. It provides employment, recreation, leisure and learning opportunities, and helps us both mitigate and adapt to climate change. The Edinburgh Declaration, signed by South Lanarkshire Council and the Nature Conservation Scotland Act, places a duty on public bodies to further the conservation of biodiversity. We report every 3 years to the Scottish Government through the Biodiversity Duty Report on the actions and outcomes achieved by the Council for Biodiversity. In 2024, we produced the 4th South Lanarkshire Council Biodiversity Strategy and our Biodiversity Duty Implementation Plan, which set out how the Council and the Biodiversity Partnership will contribute towards the targets within the Scottish Biodiversity Strategy and the Strategic Biodiversity Framework Delivery Plan. These set clear ambitions for Scotland to be nature positive by 2030 and to have restored and regenerated biodiversity by 2045. The report provides examples of partnership working and highlights the importance of working together, creating links between sectors to raise awareness, promote and enhance biodiversity, and develop better connected habitats on a landscape scale. We are working with groups such as Butterfly Conservation, Frog Life, RSPB and Bug Life to highlight the plight of certain species and habitat. Working this way allows us to share resources, funding and expertise, providing training to volunteers and staff, enabling us to reach a wider audience and even share volunteers. The monitoring and results from these projects provide an idea of the health and distribution of species throughout the country. Projects include the restoration of peat to help the UK biodiversity priority species, the monitoring of key river networks for pollution incidents through surveying invertebrate indicator species, and the creation of ponds and wetlands providing important refuge sites for amphibians, and the development and mapping of our nature networks. In 2024, we completed the assessment and designations of 104 local nature conservation sites covering 2,355 hectares of land and water through South Lanarkshire. We also identified a further 70 potential sites for future assessment. These sites will feature in our next local development plan. The LNCSs support a range of priority and species-rich habitats including ancient woodland, grassland, wetland and significant areas of peatland, and are key in the development of our nature networks. The report highlights our work with volunteers and local communities, friends groups and school groups in promoting biodiversity through events, activities, training days and practical conservation projects. We have improved 900 hectares of land for nature and improved access to nature in this way. Working with volunteers is vital in promoting and enhancing our local wildlife and provides many health and wellbeing benefits to our local communities. Staff attend meetings, conferences and webinars throughout the year to expand their skills, knowledge and share good practice. In 2025, we will be offering corporate conservation and volunteering opportunities for all council employees. We also offer a learning online course entitled Biodiversity, It's Your Duty, which relates to the information within the Scottish Biodiversity Strategy and our Biodiversity Strategy, along with useful tips and links on how people can help and get involved in providing for nature. To date, 535 people have completed this course. There are no direct employee implications with this report at this point in time. The Biodiversity Officer works in conjunction with other services to deliver the Council's biodiversity objectives. External partnerships and volunteer projects have provided additional staff and resources to deliver the outcomes referred to in the report, and there are no additional financial implications associated with this report. The Council was awarded £535 million from the Scottish Government's Nature Restoration Fund for financial year 2025-26. May I refer you back to section 2 of the report and ask the Council to approve the recommendation that the action the Council is taking in support of the nature emergency is noted. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Any questions or comments? Councillor Ross Clark, please.
Thank you, Chair, and again, thank you very much for the report. More so to welcome this coming forward, obviously following on from the motion submitted or proposed by Councillor Robb. I think it's useful, although a lot of these actions might have already been happening, I think it's also useful to have them in kind of one document and one place, and then that would also help us going forward in terms of next steps and where we can go further on, because I think it's really important we do that, in tackling the nature emergency. We always need to go further on that, promoting biodiversity and so on, links to the previous paper in that. So I think overall to welcome this, but also recognise there is always a need to go further on that, and thank you to officers for bringing this together.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Bert Thompson, please.
Thanks, Chair. I will promise to make it brief. The habitats, everybody's concerned. Well, it should be in nature, the fauna, the trees, and the things we take away sometimes to build, or things we take away it will never be replaced. So I think everybody should be concerned. It looks like we are, and we're taking it more serious. I'm glad to see it. But of course, getting companies involved, other agencies, it's not just the councils. Everybody should be involved in that. And I think the sooner we see it more seriously, the better. Just thanks for letting me leave comments here. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Leslie MacDonald, please.
Thanks, Chair, and again, thanks for this report. Can I ask you, Joe, please, can you go back to 6.1 and advise how much money was awarded? Because I think I heard you say 535 million, and it's not 500.
I wish I had 535 million. I do beg your pardon.
You're not alone. I just wondered where had all the money gone then. That was my next thing. Of course it would be, but thanks for that. Thanks, Chair.
Okay. Councillor Kirsten Robb, please.
Thank you, and thank you very much for councillors supporting this motion last year, and for the officers for pulling it all together and addressing all aspects of the motion. Why is it important? Because it's our survival as a species, never mind all the other species which deserve a right to exist as well. Really welcome progress on working with the LDP, the local development plan, because I think that if it's enshrined in that, that'll really help going forward. All the local nature conservation sites really good as well. And as a result of the motion, we're going to have highlighted that swift boxes and minimising light pollution will be in the best practice guide to encourage businesses and everyone else, as Bert said, to take into account as well. And all members will be offered biodiversity training, so it's a wee chance to learn about what's on your doorstep as well. My question is, one of the targets in the Scottish Biodiversity Strategy is that there should be more nature than today by 2030. How will we be measuring progress and monitoring progress towards that?
Kevin Carr.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks for the question, Councillor Rob. So it's a great question, and I would hope when you review the biodiversity strategy, it's pretty clear in the framework that we've got as a council to help achieve that. As Joe's already outlined in that paper, the government's biodiversity strategy creates the national framework for us, and our own strategy very much aligns with that and incorporates the nature positive by 2030 target. We've got a number of strategic objectives within the strategy covering 6 habitats, and within each of those strategic objectives we've got a clear action plan that includes actions and targets on how we hope to achieve that by 2030. So on the review of the strategy last year, we actually extended the timescale of the strategy to make sure it incorporated that 2030, so that we've got a clear path to achieving the national objectives around that. So hope that helps.
Thank you. That's great. Thanks.
Thank you. I don't see any more questions, so can we note that report, please? Thank you. Okay, the next item number 8, is the progress report, Making Space for Pollinators. That is on pages 127 to 148. And can I invite again Joe Gillis to speak to the report, please?
Thank you, Chair. The Making Space for Pollinators Progress Report highlights the work we have achieved since its approval in November 2023 and our ongoing commitment to the National Pollinator Strategy, which we report annually to Nature Scot. We continue to work in partnership with local volunteers in Glasgow City Region Green Network as part of the Clyde Grasslands project and improving grassland habitat for pollinator species and enhance our grassland nature networks. In 2024, we embarked on a pilot project in East Kilbride, working with ground services and volunteers in converting amenity grassland to more wildlife-friendly, naturalised grassland. Initial results show a 300% increase in plant species diversity in the longer grass after one growing season. The Pollinator Project has provided an opportunity to work with other services, allowing the transfer of knowledge and skills to widen the understanding and importance of biodiversity. In 2024, we identified further opportunities for naturalised grassland within East Kilbride. We mapped a total of 201 amenity grassland sites, with 34 noted as potential sites for biodiversity, covering approximately 57.75 hectares, representing 41% of the total sites identified. As local authorities are facing significant challenges, we would like to recalibrate our amenity grassland cutting frequencies to achieve a more targeted approach to grassland management. The aim is to improve outcomes for communities and biodiversity, where we create capacity to provide additional cuts on priority sites, offset this by creating more naturalised networks within our green space, build a more progressive, flexible approach to operations to become more responsive to climate change adaptations. We continue to review and reduce our use of herbicides. Since 2023, there has been a 30% reduction in the use of herbicides. Ground services have purchased equipment using Frontline First funding, which will be used throughout the authority as an alternative to weed control, helping the service to reduce further going forward. We are committed to using and purchasing peat-free products and using peat-free alternatives instead, such as tree planting compost and recycled green materials derived from green waste and food. There are currently no additional employee implications associated with this report. The Council's Biodiversity Officer works in conjunction with other Council services as well as external partners to deliver the Council's objectives around biodiversity. There are no additional revenue implications. Sorry, I think I'm reading that off the same. No, it's the same thing. Beg your pardon. I just don't want to say we've got £535 million again. There is no additional resource implications associated with this report at the time, and the Council was awarded £535,000 from the Scottish Government's Nature Restoration Fund for financial year 2026. May I refer you back to section 2 of the report and ask the Council to improve the recommendations that the Making Space for Pollinators Progress Report 2024-25 is noted. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. I see we have Councillor Ross Clark, please.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you very much for the detailed report on this. What are our plans to expand on this? Are there any other areas we see as a priority to take the same approach as has been in East Kilbride? Well, obviously also being mindful that we don't want it to seem like the council are using and this is an excuse not to cut the grass. I know that's not what officers are doing, but there will be some of that perception out there, and also that there are sites such as, if I think that was touched upon, kind of priority areas that would still need that cut and might need additional cuts, if it's for visibility and safety reasons and so on. So we'll be mindful of all that, just looking for detail in our plans to expand this to other areas.
Kevin Carr.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks for the question, Councillor Clark. So this is the second paper we've brought on our approach to pollinators to the Climate Change Committee. So in the first one, kind of almost set a baseline of all of the good work the team have been doing over recent years, with 155 sites covering 62 hectares, I think it was. And expanding that approach, we decided to run a pilot to see which further areas we could do that, which is why we picked East Kilbride, because a lot of active community groups there and a lot of support within the community. So this paper's kind of summarising what we've done with the pilot and some potential for expansion within the pilot area, but we're also looking out with East Kilbride as well at some of our other areas, and linking that to the previous paper, which talks a lot about the biodiversity strategy, as well as our commitment to creating green networks, which is going to be really important for the council going forward, and again linking in with how we expand this in other areas. Another point probably to make on this, just when you talk about maintenance, and the way that I like to discuss this is, because you're right, because the public could quite often think that we're just stopping maintaining areas, rather than what the aim is, which is increasing biodiversity. So for me, when we discuss this, it's about an alternative maintenance regime, because we need to rethink about how we maintain our land. It's not that we're reversing out of it. The regime means the maintenance takes place at different times of the year and it requires different equipment. So when we do comms around this, in terms of the signage and that we're looking to put in, not just the pollinator areas, but LNRs, it'll start to explain some of that and give more of the background. And I think we'll be developing our website so that it gives greater context for the public and what we're trying to achieve in that area as well.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Kirsten Robb, please.
Thank you. I've looked at some of the areas, and some of the areas that have been converted to grass are really beautiful. You see orchids, you're seeing butterflies, you're seeing colour, life coming back into the urban area, especially when people see the nice mown border next to it, they know it's managed and it's there for a reason. I think this is really important, the strategic approach that you've taken on page 141 and looking at future opportunities. I think it's good to take that strategic approach. It's important for obviously species, amazing results in getting a 300% increase in species. That's what I was talking about. It's about doing things differently with existing resources, as well as, quite rightly, getting more resources as well for it. And the other reason why it's important, I don't know if many of you have seen the report a few weeks ago about the massive decrease in nature connection with people these days. And nature connection is important for people's well-being. It's not only important for those species to get areas as well, but for our well-being as humans too. Noticing nature really improves people's well-being. But with this drop in connection with nature, it's so important that nature comes into urban areas. So I'm really pleased to see this report proposing more nature in urban areas so that people can connect with it on an everyday basis and reap the benefits of connection to nature as well. So look forward to seeing it progress. Thank you. Oh, sorry, the question was, when do you think the signs will be going out? Because I do agree that communication about how we're changing the regime is important.
Kevin Carr, please.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Councillor Rob. So we're looking at that at the moment. We're expecting that we'll, by the end of the financial year, we'll have those rolled out, or at the very least started rollout. You know, we've got quite a bit of areas to cover. So.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, I don't see any more questions. Can we agree to note that report, please? Thank you. Next item is item number 9, the annual review of the South Lanarkshire Local Heat and Energy Efficiency Strategy, and that is on pages 149 to 156. Can I please invite John Smith to speak to the report, please?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, well, the purpose of this report is to provide an overview to this committee on the progress that has been made during the 24-25 financial year against delivering the agreed outcomes which are set out in South Lanarkshire's Local Heat and Energy Efficiency Strategy, and also to provide an overview of the key priorities and actions that are proposed for delivery in 25-26. So the recommendations are set out at section 2, being that the overview of the progress being made against the delivering the agreed outcomes be noted, and that the key priorities and actions proposed for the delivery as part of the strategy in 2025-26 also be noted. Section 3 of the report just outlines the background. So the LHES sets out long-term plan for decarbonising heat in buildings and improving their energy efficiency across the entire local authority area. The separate delivery plan sets out how the Council and its partners propose to support the implementation of the strategy. The strategy was approved by the Executive Committee on the 26th of June 2024, and within that we committed to conduct an annual review and report the outcomes of this review to this committee. The creation of an LHES brings together key priorities around the reduction of carbon emissions, the improvement of domestic and non-domestic building stock, and the need for a reduction in fuel poverty. The LHES considers these priorities to ensure that actions addresses inequalities and supports a just transition to net zero by 2045. As detailed at section 3.5, the priorities for South Lanarkshire's LHES are 1. To reduce heat demand using a fabric-first approach to improve the condition and the energy efficiency of all housing tenures across the entire local authority area, and ensure that poor energy efficiency performance is removed as a driver of fuel poverty. Priority 2 is to transition to zero direct emissions heating systems in all the buildings across the Council in an effort to tackle climate change. And Priority 3, to make greater use of heat networks as a part of this wider just transition to net zero, and to deliver lower heating bills and reduce carbon emissions. The delivery plan includes 28 actions across its 5 chapters, and these are categorised into immediate actions to be implemented in the first or second year of the plan, and medium-term actions which will be implemented in years 2 to 5. Section 4 of the report contains the annual review for 24-25, and that's the first full year of the strategy over now, so a review of progress has been conducted by colleagues in Housing and Technical Resources in conjunction with our Council and community planning partners. The review identified that positive progress had been made across all 5 chapters of the strategy, with 22 of the 28 delivery plan actions either underway or anticipated to commence on schedule. There are 6 areas that are yet to be progressed, will be done so in 25-26 as intended, and the key highlights of the activity within each of the chapters is provided in Appendix 1 of the report. Section 5 is our focus for financial year 25-26, and we aim to ensure that progress is progressed against, again, each of the 3 priorities as noted out in the strategy. And the actions are listed in section 5.1 of the report. Just highlighting a couple of those, is the feasibilities that we're studying, carrying out feasibility studies for heat networks across a couple of areas, and an analysis which is currently underway of the Council's domestic housing stock to look at a baseline for identifying energy efficiency improvements as required by statutory targets and outlining high-level strategies to both meet and exceed their targets, again setting out a pathway for net zero emissions by 2045. Section 6 identifies the key next steps and identifies also that we've made good progress in 24-25 against delivering the key 3 LE's priorities. The Council will continue to monitor, to influence where possible and enact any national policy changes that relate to LEs in 2025-26. And we highlight there that a second review, an annual review of LEs covering the 25-26 period will be presented to this committee a year from now. Section 7 notes the employee implications and that all resources within the Council are required to contribute and to implement the local heat and energy efficiency strategy and ensure that our targets are met. In terms of funding, the Scottish Government has provided £75,000 annual funding until 27-28 to support the development and delivery of the first iteration of LEs, and the Council has used this funding to recruit a dedicated officer and myself to act as the main point of contact for the Council and our partners regarding LEs. We see in Section 8 of the financial implications that the LEs itself does not commit any expenditure, but any costs associated with delivering the projects identified in the LEs, some of which may be eligible for external funding, but each of these will be developed and reported on a project-by-project basis. So just returning to Section 2 and the recommendations, and the committee is asked to note the update on the progress made to date on the LEs and the delivery plan as detailed in Appendix 1, and the proposed actions that are going forward into 25-26. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions, comments on that? Don't see anything. Okay, can we note that report, please? Thank you. Okay, and the item number 10 is the interim update 10-year estate strategy, and that is on pages 157 to 162. Can I ask Craig Jardine to speak to the report?
Thank you, Chair. So the purpose of this report on pages 157 to 162 is to provide a further update to members on the development and implementation of a cross-cutting review of the Council's property asset base, which is linked to an intention to seek approval for a 10-year estate strategy, and provide a summary of tasks undertaken to date and confirm the timescales for the subsequent phase of this exercise. So in terms of background, since March 25, we've been continuing to progress on the review that will promote strategic and outcome-focused methodology to asset management, with the key aim to secure approval for a 10-year estate strategy. This long-term approach will inform and guide future land and property decisions on investment rationalisation, disposal of assets, and taking account of community financial and service considerations. So in terms of progress to date, we had updated the Exec Committee in March and June, advising of the strategy in terms of it will be split into the 3 phases, which are listed at 4.2. So as part of phase 1, officers continue to engage with all resources, working together to collate and analyse a data set and information, which has been a massive exercise, driving greater understanding of all of our asset performance. It's looking at cost effectiveness, sustainability, service delivery, placemaking and utilisation. In terms of where there would be any information gaps, we have been looking at standardised assumptions across all of the assets, and that's been applied in instances where data is either incomplete or unavailable. So phase 1 is now complete, and we're progressing with phase 2 and 3. So phase 2 is exploring and identifying potential service transformation initiatives, and making a case for investment while we're doing that, and also looking at potential funding sources. So as you all know, that we've agreed 24 million to promote and deliver part of the plan over the next 2 financial years, and we're currently looking at a prioritised list of investment which will be part of the final report. So that phase is progressing well, and we're now getting to the stage where we're finalising thoughts and ideas around what the investment plan is likely to look like in each area. Phase 3 itself is the development of the strategy, and again that is progressing well. There's a number of supplementary reports and documents that are nearing completion, but again we are just getting into that fine detail of agreeing options internally, first of all, how we would deliver that and take that investment into the next phase. Development of the projects, they are listed at 5.2 in terms of the kind of work that we're looking at and the kind of model that we'll be looking at. That's key to adopting the kind of the one public sector approach. But again, we are looking at maximising assets, disinvesting in assets that may not be appropriate anymore, and making sure we're getting the best, going back to the key principles of the review, which was a smaller, leaner, more efficient estate, and that's still the main aim. So in terms of stakeholder consultation, we launched a high-level public consultation exercise in 22nd of April this year, and that concluded on the 30th of May. So the initial consultation showed general approval for the approach. We had 298 responses, 96% of people agreed that there was a need to review the estate, and 68% agreed with the aims. 68% agreed that the outcome is likely to be a smaller estate, but one of higher quality and greater energy efficiency, while 69% agreed that the review it was necessary to address the challenges of climate change and net zero. So that's been taken on board. Clearly we'll then go back out for a second phase, but we can't do that until we've actually got some specifics to go back and communicate and consult on. And that's what the intention absolutely is. So in terms of next steps, they're all listed at 7.1. However, it's probably just worth mentioning at the section under operational decarbonisation that there will be a costed implementation plan that will be developed to manage carbon emissions across the council, which will obviously inform part of the final report. This involves analysing potential reduction in operational carbon, developing a costed decarbonisation pathway to net zero, and matching sites to funding opportunities. So again, that all links to phase 2 and 3 that's ongoing at the moment. So the plan will provide clear plans to funding routes for larger investments, enabling informed decisions about the council's pathway to net zero, and this work stream criteria will feed into the core flex and tail decisions within the final report. Another example is that we are, through the commission of the consultant we're using for this exercise, we're looking at 5 pilot projects where we're doing an energy assessment, and that will position us, we hope, in a very good way, so that as soon as funding comes out, we're on the front foot to bid for funding, and we've picked a number of different building types across different resources, so that it's kind of widening our opportunity for funding, and we can implement that straight away as soon as funding becomes available, because as we all know, sometimes it's first come, first served, so we need to be on the front foot for that phase. So if I just take you back to section 2 of the recommendations, so committee is asked to approve the following recommendations: that the progress made to date and the next steps of the report be noted, that the initial phase of public consultation feedback be noted, and to note that the initial interim update 10-year estate strategy report was agreed at Exec Committee on the 25th of June, and a final report on the proposed 10-year strategy will be presented to the Executive Committee in November. Happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any questions on that report? Councillor Julia Mars, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'm noting 5.2 on page 159 of the report in terms of the development of projects, and it's 5.2 notes the maximise use of all primary school halls as community hall assets where appropriate. Given the reduction in accessible community halls by the Council, I am very pleased to see this point included in the strategy going forward. I do wonder, though, if further detail on the cost to the community to let school halls can be offered and be part of the development of this strategy going forward. Since some community halls now used as education facilities through the day can currently cost around £500 for a 4-hour weekend let, given the staffing costs for that. So they are effectively closed to the public.
Craig Jardine again, please.
Yeah, thanks for the question. So the options for the use of community halls, whether it's lifestyle buildings, maximising the use of the primary estate, it's all in the mix at the moment in terms of developing the thoughts and plans for that. But the principle very much is you've got a good asset in primary schools because they're all very good condition, suitability, scoring, and where there are potentially some community halls that have not been subject to any community asset transfer in the past, where it may be feasible to transfer the usage of that centre into the local primary school, whether it's with minor alterations, that would be part of the investment plan. That is the key to then reducing particularly in the SLLC estate, where there are opportunities, as long as we can provide alternative facilities and a facility that is of better condition. There are wider issues that we are aware of and are discussing, and particularly along the charging model, making sure that that is being considered moving forward. And as part of the review, it's been made quite clear that we really need to not just produce the estate strategy, but link it into the Leisure Trust's financial modelling moving forward. How education manage their assets from the letting. So, as you expect with a strategy like this, it's kind of growing arms and legs a wee bit, but it's the right thing to do to get the absolute right answer, or the best possible answer we can get by the time we go to committee with a final report. So it's all in the mix at the moment and being considered.
Thank you.
Okay, I don't see any further questions, so can we agree to note that report, please? Thank you. Urgent business, I don't have any items of urgent business. However, there are a couple of points of information. Firstly, can I just remind everybody about the climate awareness training on the 17th of September? If you can, then please come along to that. And secondly, just to highlight that the Lanarkshire Climate Festival starts next week. And I just invite Adam Wallace to say a few words about that.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, it's just to remind everybody, maybe you didn't know about it already, that the Lanarkshire Climate Festival being organised by the Lanarkshire Climate Action Hub is taking place from the 8th of September to the 21st of September. There's over 80 events happening across Lanarkshire, and there's a full programme available which I'll make sure is distributed to all the members after today's session, so you can see what's happening in your own communities, and yeah, feel free to attend. And I think the hub are very welcoming of elected members coming along to the events. So yeah, keep an eye out for that.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you all for attending today. I'll draw the meeting to a close.